All right, so I wanted to comment on a video here of Jordan Peterson. First of all, I love JP. He's fantastic. I learned a lot from the guy. He's unbelievable. Psychology standpoint has helped me out in tons of different ways. But he makes a comment on a Bible passage here that's not quite right. So his understanding, his interpretation is off. And I say this not because I'm wanting to say, hey, you're wrong, but it's because there's quite a few Christians that I don't think have the right understanding of the passage. And I just wanted to kind of listen to what he says and then just give some comment here. And my aim is not simply to just diss, but my aim is to help people rightly understand the passage and therefore rightly apply it to their lives. So here we go.
It's a very strange book. Christ comes back as the judge. Now, Jung commented about that, Carl Jung. He said, look, the Christ in the Gospels is very, very merciful. And Christ comes back as a judge. And one of the things he says is, if you were neither hot nor cold, I'll spit you out of my mouth. And he actually uses a word that refers to vomit. So it's a disgust phrase, but it's exactly relevant to that. It's like, so the people who are judged most harshly aren't the ones who make the worst mistakes or who do the best things. It's the ones that stay in the middle and never commit themselves, who want to have it both ways, right? And so that's a hell of a thing to know, is that it's okay to fail as long as you're in it, as long as you're all in.
Okay, so let's kind of take that, comment on it just a bit. So it's important when you're reading any book of the Bible to discern what the genre is. For example, are you reading, genre means kinds, so different kinds of literature. So what are you reading? Are you reading narrative? Are you reading poetry? Are you reading a letter? Are you reading prophecy? Are you reading wisdom literature? Are you reading Proverbs? Are you reading apocalyptic literature? Once you discover what the genre is, that will help you to understand more accurately what the Bible passage is saying. So the book of Revelation was written in the apocalyptic genre. It's a genre that's pretty foreign to us. You know, when you read the book of Revelation today, and it's a challenging book. And the reason it's so challenging is because it's a genre that we're not familiar with. But one of the main characteristics of the genre is that it is filled with a demonstrable amount of symbolism. So you don't always interpret the book of Revelation literally. More often than not, you're unpacking symbols and trying to figure out what they mean. And there were standard symbols in apocalyptic literature. For example, horns usually means kingdoms, right? So there were standard symbols. And the symbols, and particularly with the book of Revelation, the symbols either came from the Old Testament or they came from the city that was being talked about. In the book of Revelation, in the first couple chapters, chapter 2 and 3, there's 7 churches that are mentioned. And one of the churches, the church that Jordan Peterson is referring to in his little video, was the church at Laodicea. Now, the church at Laodicea was a rich church. The town itself was rich. In fact, there was a terrible earthquake that hit it in the first century. And Rome came in, and Rome said, hey, we want to help you. But they didn't want any help from Rome. They said, hey, we got this. We have all the money we need. We're fine. So they were very proud of their self-sufficiency. That was the town, and the church, in many ways, reflected the town. The church clearly had the same problem. They were prideful. They were self-sufficient. You know, they kind of thought they were great, right? Well, what's interesting is when you read the text, Jesus says, I want to spit you out of my mouth, or vomit. because you are neither hot nor cold, right? So what does it mean when he says that? Here's what it means. Think about the symbolism of the town. So in Laodicea, as rich as they were, they never were able to figure out how to have good water. They had to get their water from a neighboring hot spring, and the water had to get piped in. But by the time the water was piped into the city, it was nasty. It was filled with, the minerals that would come through the pipes and stuff, and it got real nasty. And by the time it got to the city, it was lukewarm. Well, not only was their water so terrible, but there were two cities near them, a city of Hierapolis and a city of Colossae. The city of Colossae was known for its cold, refreshing water. So it had a purpose. You drank the water. It was cold, and it was refreshing. That was the purpose. You'd be refreshed when you drank it. The city of Hierapolis, which was also nearby, was known for its medicinal hot springs. Right? So the water was medicinal. It served a purpose. So Jesus says this is what really he has in mind here. Sorry, I've been kind of sick lately. So this is what he has in mind here when he says that they're neither cold nor hot. So just as people may benefit from cold water or benefit medically from a hot spring, you, Laodicea, are like your water. You're lukewarm. You're not doing anything meaningful for the church. You serve no purpose. You serve no purpose whatsoever. You are like your water supply. You're not ministering in any valuable way. In fact, it makes me want to spit you out of my mouth. Because that's what the Laodiceans did with their own water. It was worthless and nasty, and they spit it out of their mouth. And that's why Jesus has such harsh words for them. That letter is filled with only rebukes. And he even ends the letter by saying, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. Let me back into the church. Let me back into my church," right? Oftentimes people use that, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock," as an evangelistic kind of thing where, God's knocking on the door of your heart if you're an unbeliever. No, this was God's local church. And essentially they've kicked God out of the church because of their own self-sufficiency. We're talking about God's church. We're not talking about unbelievers. We're talking about God's church. So the lesson for us is, are we ministering in any valuable way? Do we serve a purpose for God's kingdom? Right? If we don't, there's a problem. Let Christ back into your life and allow him to lead you and guide you and serve a purpose, right? Anyhow, I just wanted to share some commentary there. And the purpose is simply to be helpful. I think it's always good to have a right understanding of a Bible passage, because once you have the right understanding, you'll have proper application. And as I said, I love JP, much smarter than I am. But I've learned a lot about the scriptures and how to interpret them, and I just wanted to share that. So, anyway, thank you so much, and God bless you in the way.